State of Florida releasing a massive list of businesses, local governments, even law enforcement agencies that are supposedly being investigated for violating the state's ban on vaccine passports. The list is generating a lot of headlines. It even has some big-name local organizations on it. Our Jay O'Brien has been doing some digging and says that list is not what it appears. Jay?
Yeah, Jim, good evening. A lot of places on that list. It is massive, over 100 and plus businesses, including right here, the Norton Museum of Art. But we found that the Norton, just like a lot of businesses on that list, is perfectly in compliance with the state's COVID rules, and they are not the only ones.
From Starbucks to fighter jet manufacturers and concert promoters. According to this massive list, Florida's Department of Health is looking into all of them for requiring proof of vaccination. More than 100 businesses in total, including the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach. The Kravis Center told us their policy is in the best interest of anyone who would go inside, from performers to patrons. And they also said they believe it is in line with any applicable laws. In fact, we found the theater's actually COVID compliant. Its rules require proof of a shot or a negative test, something that doesn't technically violate the state's ban on so-called vaccine passports.
There you go.
CBS 12 News found business after business being investigated by the state, but not violating any rules. Remember Starbucks? We couldn't find any vaccine requirements for customers or employees, and they weren't alone. The Florida Department of Health told us their list doesn't prove any guilt. Instead, it's a compilation of all the complaints the department has received from everyday Floridians. Some allegations more outrageous than others, like this complaint into a seemingly non-existent vaccine requirement for a terrorism task force made up of state police. And this one asking Florida to fine the U.S. Department of Defense for its vaccine requirement. The list also includes major cruise lines like Disney and Carnival, which do require passengers get vaccinated, a policy that's locked that industry in a legal battle with Governor DeSantis. The governor, for his part, laser focused on one group in particular, local governments who require their employees get vaccinated, vowing he'll protect them and the freedoms of other Floridians.
You don't just cast aside people who've been serving faithfully over this issue.
For the first time in more than 10 weeks, Florida's new case positivity rate dropped below 5% after peaking at more than 20% this summer.
Yeah, sounds like good news, but now doctors are warning that it may be a little too soon to pull back on restrictions. Our Stephanie Balderrama explains why.
Cases and hospitalizations also down. So while things feel like they're getting back to normal, now is not the time to ease up on restrictions, especially with the holidays right around the corner.
Our admissions to the COVID units are down. Our ICU admissions are down. And finally, we're seeing COVID deaths numbers also coming down.
It's encouraging, says Dr. Katanga Kimino, who heads the COVID task force for the T. Leroy Jefferson Medical Society. But he warns we need to be cautious.
We've been here before, and we've seen the numbers go back up.
The last time numbers came down and COVID restrictions were lifted across the country, spikes followed. In July, the CDC revised its guidance and Palm Beach County reinstated mask mandates in government facilities. A month later, the county declared a state of emergency due to the new coronavirus cases overwhelming hospitals. But now the state's positivity rate has been trending downward for 7 weeks, which is great news. But some are concerned about another surge after the holidays.
If there's transmission and transmission change, it's about a 2-week lag before we start seeing the diagnosis and then the numbers start creeping up in the hospitals.
Vaccination rates remain steady at about 300,000 per week, and approval could soon be coming for vaccines for kids 5 to 12 years old, along with boosters for Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, both of which could move us closer to that herd immunity goal. But what doctors we spoke to want to see is a sustained reduction in new cases before lifting restrictions.
Family is speaking out after suing the Palm Beach County School District over its mask mandate.
But as CBS 12 News reporter Lena Solsbeck explains, the concerns this family raised are unique.
The lawsuit is nothing new, asking that the courts declare the emergency mask mandate in Palm Beach County schools be declared illegal and to stop the enforcement of these so-called harmful facial covering requirements. But for this plaintiff, there's a twist. Tiffany Young has a medical exemption from a doctor saying she doesn't have to wear a mask, but in this unusual case, it's not just wearing a mask, but seeing others wearing masks, which can cause problems for her and her kids.
This whole pandemic has just been, we've stayed at home a lot because it triggers a lot of emotional and physical reactions from us due to what has happened to us.
The Young family's issue is based on an incident that occurred while they were living in Costa Rica, and the fact their daughter, Jane Doe, number 17, suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, making it impossible for her to wear a mask or see others wearing them.
In 2015, we were living in Costa Rica, and we had 5 masked men kick in our door. They tied us up, they bound us, gagged us, and held us at gunpoint while they robbed the villa.
Young's daughter was just 6 years old at the time, and her son nearly 13. Both were deeply traumatized by the violent robbery.
Everything was ransacked. They had gone through everything. Every drawer, every nook and cranny, even the ceilings.
Nate Young says he can tolerate a mask, but sometimes it brings him back to that awful night.
Sometimes I'm already anxious and it's just too much for me, and I can have a panic attack from it.
When the district reinstated the mask mandate, the family was faced with a difficult decision for their daughter just entering the 6th grade.
We had her registered for school, and then when they reinstated the mask mandate, we pulled her out immediately. We weren't going to send her back.
We reached out to the school district for comment, but they say they cannot comment on any pending litigation. But with the number of new COVID cases continuing to decline steadily, it seems clear that the time to reconsider these mask mandates may be coming sooner rather than later.